Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be my last video on the subject of security because I've run out of stories. This is the last one that I went to. I went back to the greatest job I've ever had, the job that I loved doing more than pretty much any other job other than when I worked for, when I was a night produce manager at Safeway all the way back in 2016. This job at the psychiatric hospital, or the behavioral hospital I'm about to tell you about, is a story I've already gone over twice on this channel, but I actually went back to it, and that's where I was originally recording these original episodes, was when I was at work over there. So please forgive me if this video goes slow because I'm really tired. I just got off a gig and I seriously woke up like an hour and a half ago. I was on a 13-hour shift yesterday for an event to do, outside concert security. So I'm exhausted. So anyways, you take a pause for the cause here. I think I've had that in like 2 weeks. It's great. So for Dutch Bros, okay. All right, so this is SO Chris, Security Officer Chris, 199. And what happened at the psychiatric hospital? Well, I ended up going back because after that story that I told you guys about last week, I put in my application and they actually picked me up pretty quickly for an interview. And both me and 101, we went to the interview pretty quickly. We both got picked up at the same time. So, a friend of mine, one of the guys who trained me, was able to get me in. And also 101. And so what happened was, I remember getting dressed up and putting on my clothes for an interview. Like, it's pretty much at this point, it's like I live in it. It's like, I was telling someone this recently, I live in the drug test because I've had so many freaking jobs over the years. Because I keep, because of my deep-seated anger problems, I keep getting pissed off and quitting. So I've had, I'm 36 years old and I've had 35 jobs. But anyways, hey man, that's just life. You just roll with the punches kind of thing. But anyways, even the shirt I'm wearing, I wore to an interview like 2 days ago. So anyways, I live in the drug test. That's why I'm straight edge. So I ended up going in, and it was a new company that had bought the grounds and bought the building. So bought the actual mental center and the tower. So the interview went very, very well. One of the guys who worked there, I found out, was actually trying to pull strings and politic for me not to get the job there, along with my partner 101. And so this guy, funny thing I'm going to tell you about in 5 minutes is what happened to him. So what happened is that I ended up getting an interview by the director, and also who was supposed to be my supervisor. So we both, all three of us are sitting in there. Me and my partner actually had back-to-back interviews. So I put in the application, and so did he. My friend showed me how to do it, like what link I'm supposed to click to get to what to do to fill out the application and to submit my resume. So we both got in. And I remember I got out of the car, and I remember like my heart was racing because I was like really excited to finally go back to a job that it's one of the only like 2 jobs in my whole life I actually loved dressing up and going to. And I remember I was like the only car in the parking lot. And so when I parked my car, I remember saying so there was this documentary that came out called Hard Knocks, the Chris Benoit story. You could actually watch it I found out Daily Motion. They actually have it on there. But, and because it's like banned everywhere else. You can't even buy the DVD set anymore. But when he went to WCW, I remember he got out of the limo back when Chris Benoit had a mullet, and he said, WCW, where the big boys play. For whatever reason, I said the same thing right when I got out of the car. I said the name of the company, the psychiatric hospital where the big boys play. And I remember my heart was racing and I was super excited, but I was really nervous because I hadn't been back to that building in about 2 years. And so I walked in. Damn, man. I walked in and one of the women that I met actually ended up being my partner, who I got into a almost got into a heated confrontation with because she was such a fucking idiot and she was fucking terrible at her fucking job. And I seriously cannot stand this woman. I call her Ernest. And she was actually the first person I met coming back because she was, lo and behold, she was the one working the podium and working the front door because the whole place was locked down at that point. It's open now, but from what I understand. But anyways, so I go in, I meet her, I say, hey, I'm here for an interview, and then I go in. So I meet the guy who's trying to sabotage me getting the job there and getting paid a lot of money. So to go back. And so I guess from what he was telling the director, along with all the lies he was spouting off about, about all the other workers. So what happened is that he had talked down so much about me to the director that she seriously thought I was like retarded or something. The first question she says is, she said, so Chris, do you know like how to do exterior patrols? Do you know what an interior patrol is in security? Like, do you understand any of that? And I said, yes, I do. I've done exteriors, interiors. I know I've been on code reds, code silvers, code grays. I've been on a code pink, code green. I've been, you name it, I've done it. The guy who worked with me here, 134, has shown me every aspect about this job. I know at this point, I watched him work schedules. I know how to put people's schedules together on the computer. I know how to pull surveillance footage. Anytime PD needs to, if they bring in a subpoena, I know how to work with the head nurse to get the timestamps that they need. I know how to do the printouts. I know everything about this job. I was thoroughly and well trained, and I've been in security for 4 years at this point. I know exactly what to do. I've done this, this, and this, everything. So, and then I remember the guy, the supervisor, he said, he was like trying to be slick, saying some stupid shit like, let's say you're in this kind of situation, and for this kind of scenario, would you do this? Would you do A or would you do B? He said like some shit like that. Like he was talking down to me, like I was an idiot. And so even she noticed during the meeting that I think the problem is the guy sitting next to me, not the guy we're interviewing, because she found out later the guy was lying about all of us and he was trying to get all of us fired and bring in his own team. This guy was straight up a fucking retard. Like, this guy was so bad at being like at his job. He seriously did not know what to do about like anything. And tried to blame us and tried to blame the old crew. And then so he kept bringing in his own people, and only one of them actually ended up being worth a damn. So, and he's a great guy. I worked with him, like fantastic worker to work with. Like me and him ended up watching Scarface together for like, I think the first day I was back. Fantastic. Like, this guy is like fantastic at his job. Like, this guy, he worked at like another series of hospitals for like 14 years or something like that. He was telling me a story that the time that Mike Tyson's daughter died, that he was actually on shift as security when Mike Tyson came in, and he was freaking out because when they brought his daughter was, deceased. And he was telling me the story that he was actually on shift for that back then. They came to his hospital, and it's like, you call code gray on Mike Tyson, like, good luck, So even at his age right now, I see him like he boxed Jake Paul later on. What, like 10 years after that? And so this is 10 years before that. So yeah. So anyways, fantastic guy. I loved working with him. It was the woman that I could not stand working. It was the two women one of them wasn't really that bad. She was just really, really lazy. But the other one, Ernest, I seriously could not stand working with her. She was the fucking drizzling shit. But like one of those things, like how the hell do you have a job here? Like you are that bad. So anyways, so what happened is I got the job, and then me and the supervisor had this really awkward conversation when I came back in the next day to fill out all the paperwork and to fill out all the, to fill out the W-2, to fill out all the stuff. And so he was just telling me, like, he basically gave me paperwork. So this is going to go way over 30 minutes, so I might have to do a part 2 to this because so much happened that's like I want to go over that was really like funny and stupid and like completely ridiculous. But in the 4 months I was there for my curtain call, but so I ended up filling out all this paperwork that was completely not the paperwork that I was supposed to be filling out. Like a lot of it didn't even have to do with new hire orientation paperwork. This is how stupid this guy was. Like, this is how awful this guy was at his fucking job. So he actually ended up ultimately getting fired over a fucking music video, which is like, I've never, in the 5 years I've been doing security, I've never even heard, this is the only time I ever even fucking heard of that. But, so anyways, and guess who was the one that walked him out? Rob Van Dam here. So, yeah, so that was great. So he gave me a bunch of paperwork, and then so I filled it out, and he just kept telling me, well, I have a not a tournament, but he said, well, he kept telling me I have this thing to go to, so like we gotta, kind of like make this quick. And it's like, but it's all the stuff I need in order to get paid and to put my fucking shit down for my medical insurance and stuff. And I was thinking to myself, why would we hurry this up? Like, this is like important. So, but he brought that up a couple times where he was saying, it was like, like baseball, what is it called when like you make your own like fake teams, for like MLB or something like that. And then like you're in like a competition with a bunch of other guys. Like, I can't remember what it's called, but he did that, like what fucking, what's his name did in that movie, like This Is It or something like that, or This Is Us or something like that, when what's her name thought he was cheating, but he was just in the room like talking about fucking baseball and shit. He said he had to go to something like that. And so we ended up doing it within probably an hour, getting all the paperwork done. And so I end up having to bring in my own clothes because they didn't have the security uniforms ready for us yet because they were brand new. It was like a brand new company coming into the area buying the hospital, so we didn't have like the 511s. We didn't have like security t-shirts. I actually bought my own shirt and just brought that in. I bought it for like $15. I just brought in my own top flight security shirt and a hat, or like a beanie or something like that. So anyways, I just brought in my own clothes. So, oh, that's good. So anyways, I ended up doing that. So, first day I work in, second day that I come in, there was rumors spreading around that the supervisor was going to get fired because of how, because I guess he screwed up a whole bunch of different, like, people's paperwork, and he got caught lying about it, just like what I was telling you guys with lying about the staff and things like that, and refusing to go to codes. And when he did go to codes, like one time he accidentally, or not accidentally, it was just like a big goober, like ended up stiff arming one of the fucking patients. So what did they called him the Neanderthal? Yeah, I remember that now. Okay. So I ended up working with I don't remember his call sign. I think his call sign was, it wasn't 187. What was his call sign? It was a thing for like weed. What is it? God, I don't remember. But they called him the Exalted Ruler. So we ended up watching Scarface, and he's like a super cool guy. And then the director was coming in, and we were helping out EVS, and we were helping out like the janitors and making sure that we were doing like our patrols, like going around. Like it was like, the original, you know, even though we got taken out of the original office, I really didn't mind that because, like, I just love the fact that I was there. Even to this day, if God didn't tell me to leave, even though things from the rumors I heard, things really went badly downhill. Like, we're talking a bunch of gravelers and geodudes just shitting down a mountain. So it's disappointing, but it is what it is, because a lot of the guys that I work with ended up quitting the job because of how bad it got. But back last November, it was in December, like, it was just fantastic. Like, I was having all these nostalgia feelings and looking at all, you know, all the stuff in, like, you know, the lockdown, like, areas for the adult, like, for court ordered, like, back then, because it was all abandoned. So they were waiting to get their licenses from the state and waiting for OSHA to come in so they could start opening up the wards one by one. And I just remember walking in there and just looking at all the chairs, and I just remembered how it just smelled like rank piss in every room I walked into, and every single ward, even pediatric, all the way up to, like, the Gero. Well, we didn't have Gero, but we had lockdown adult, court ordered. And I remember just, you know, it was like a lot of the same staff was working there, and even a lot of the techs I ran into and nurses were people that I worked with in the past, back in 2021 and 22. Yeah, it was like super nostalgic. Like, I absolutely, it was one of the, you know, I've already said this, but it was one of the jobs I actually loved going to. Like, I genuinely believed in what I was doing up until things started getting bad, which was when I got put with that fucking woman, Ernest. So that's when things started getting annoying, and it just completely fell downhill, because after about a month and a half of working there, when I got put with her, I ended up doing all the fucking job. I ended up going to all the codes. I went to anytime there was, like, valuables pickup. Like, basically, she didn't fucking do shit at that job. I ended up doing the fire watch paperwork. I ended up doing the paperwork for, like, checking all the temperatures. Like, basically everything that was wrapped around, you know, because when you work in hospital security, you're going to end up doing a lot of the same jobs that, like, the janitor's doing. So, like, you're going to be working, you're kind of intertwined with facilities. But every time I got booked with this woman, I ended up doing fucking everything, and she just sat at the podium in the front when the director told her that's not a post. It's not a part of your DAR. So, and never got in trouble for it. Got talked to. She brought fucking these disgusting cats into the job. Everybody got fucking bit by fleas and shit. Like, it's like this woman is a soldier of Satan. I don't know how else to put it. This woman is consumed by loving chaos, and you know who loves chaos? His name's Lucifer. So, anyways, if you're a person of order, that means you're a person of God. If you're a person of chaos, that's what that means. So, anyways, yeah, just sneaking cats and even bringing cats onto the fucking ward, like when they did open, and let the fucking patients, and, like, yeah, that was a fun day having one of the nurses stop me to tell me, why did your partner Ernest bring a stray cat covered in fleas, and her face is covered in pock marks and bites from the fleas and ticks and whatever the hell was in her face? Why did your partner bring it into, like, why did she think it was a good idea to do that? And so I felt like, I was like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'll talk to my boss. I'll see what I can do. You know, it was like one of those things. It's just fucking embarrassing. But so, anyways, so it started getting really bad because I ended up only working with her about 30 out of the 40 hours a week, or 47 hours, like something, because I kept getting picked up for, like, back-to-back 12s and 16s, which I didn't mind. I love that job. If my director put me on 16 hours, 7 days a week, I seriously would not complain. That's how much I loved working there. And I cannot say that about any other job. Even the job I have right now is actually pretty good for the most part. It could be a lot better, but whatever. So it's still good. I still like it. It's kind of like one of those things, like, it is what it is. I'm getting paid, so whatever. So anyways, I'm not trying to say I'm not grateful. It's just, but working at that psych hospital, it was great. Even when I worked for the other psych hospital, when I was a tech, it was fucking miserable. But this one, I don't know what it is about this particular hospital that I just loved working at. So it did start getting bad because it got fucking annoying because I ended up doing everything. But let me tell you about the best part, about one of the best parts. So I'm patrolling the bottom of the hospital. I'm patrolling floor 1. And so I get a text from the director saying, and she was flying in from California unbeknownst to the staff. So unbeknownst to us, we didn't know. So she told me and the Exalted Ruler privately on the text, like in a text message in this group chat with just the 3 of us, saying, your supervisor, is he there right now? And I think my partner said yes. Yeah, he's here. He just got here. But he was hiding in he was hiding in one of the offices. He wasn't doing anything. He didn't announce himself to us. He didn't grab a radio. He didn't try to shake my hand and say, hey, I know you have like this experience. Let me go ahead and train you. He didn't do it. He just ignored me the whole time because he didn't want me there. He didn't want to hire me. It wasn't his choice. So what ends up happening is that she then sends me a private message saying, she says, hey, I know you just started, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to make you the hatchet man, and I'm going to be there in about 15 minutes. Please be up front. You're going to walk out the supervisor. I'm firing him on the spot. And I was like, whoa, okay. So then immediately I like almost ran upstairs, even though she said 15 minutes, I had like plenty of time. I went there, but she actually started walking up at that point as I was going up. So I don't know how 15 turned into like 2 minutes, but so I end up standing out there, and my new partner's out there, and it's just the 2 of us. And the supervisor was also told by the director to come to the front lobby. And keep in mind, everything's like abandoned at this point. There's like no one there. So anyways. So what ends up happening is he comes in and he looks at me. He doesn't even look at me. He looks at his like friend, the guy who brought him in. And so he walks in, and then the director's there, and she comes in and she says, I need to see the supervisor right now. Is he here? And then my partner said, yeah. She walks over. They go into the back area. I will never forget this. It's quiet at first for like the first couple minutes, and then you can hear the supervisor getting loud. And so what happens is that, I don't know if it was the radio or I think it was his, because we all had like this ring of keys. I think he took his key set and like threw it at her. The fucking director of your job, the director of EVS facilities, and she's basically like, she was like literally like right under the owner of the company. Like that's how high up her like position is. And so he takes this fucking key set and throws it at her. He walks out with the Tractic phone, which is, I guess only the supervisor could touch it kind of thing. So he was the only one that was, or whoever was, Shifley was the only one that could have the Tractic phone for some fucking reason. So, yeah. So he walks out as he's like screaming. And I remember one of the things I heard when we were like standing outside the intake area, he was like, you let that guy 134, you let him go down the fucking ramp in a wheelchair and he doesn't get fucking fired. And like, he was like, yeah, he was like screaming in there at the director. You never seen me do that on a video, but you see that, you allow that to happen. And so things like that. And she just kept quietly telling him, please get your things and get out. And so, right when he walks out, he's still yelling. He's doing this, and right when he pushes the door open, he sees me, and immediately his face is like, he's just shocked. He's screaming. He sees me and he goes like that, and then he starts walking like quietly as but then he takes the Tractic phone, he throws it against the wall. So the director says, she like power walks up to me, says, do not let that man out of your sight. He needs to get his things. He walks now. He gets off the property now. And so I start calmly walking behind him with the Exalted Ruler, and we're both doing it. We had to seriously go to 4 different offices because he had so many things that he needed to clean out. One of them was this big ass Keurig that we found, and I seriously, like, my partner was like holding it like he was holding, like it was like a stack of things in 4 different offices that we went to. And so then one of the things that happens as we're going down the ramp that leads down, so it's like a ramp that goes like this and it goes like that, that leads to like the IOP program. But if you go down that ramp, we're going to the last office. And so when we're heading down towards to the right there where the boiler room was, for his other office, my partner, it was like super tense and super awkward. But if this guy was going to throw hands, it is what it is. We're fighting then. So I had no respect. I didn't know him at the moment. I actually felt bad for him. But then when I heard about everything he did later, I seriously didn't care. You know, and then the place that he ended up going to was actually the place I actually worked at when I worked at the ER back in 2023, early 23. He actually, a different company bought that one. He ended up going there, and they were, from what I heard, they were treating him like it was fucking boot camp, and everyone was disrespecting him and like all this stuff. It was great. So anyways, this guy was like an asshole, but so one of the only thing that happens in the interaction I have with him is as he's power walking down the ramp, his friend is next to him and I'm walking behind him. And so to try to break the tension, I think he was trying to break the tension, is that the Exalter ruler said, you know, he just got, you know, Chris here just got hired. I don't, like, he doesn't even know what's going on. The director just told us to do this. We don't know what's going on. We're just, you know, doing what we're told. And so he turns around and he looks at me with a side eye and he said something like, well, I'm glad I was the one to give you this experience. And then he just kept walking forward. And then I like didn't say anything. I was like, okay. So, and then we just like, all right. So then we just kept walking and then, you know, holding the Keurig and like all the stuff. And then he gets into his fucking Geo, his broken down 1990 Geo, and then he puts all the stuff in the car, and then he just like, I don't remember what the other conversations were or anything like that between them, but I don't think there was any actually. I think it was just quiet. And then we just got in the car. He was like throwing all the stuff in the car, and then he gets out and he peels out. And so then now we don't have a supervisor. I mean, we didn't need one. I mean, I was thoroughly trained to the point where I was a shift lead. Like all of us were fucking shift leads except for Ernest and the other woman I worked with. Like, so all of us were shift leads. All of us have like experience and knew what we were doing. We didn't need a supervisor. But anyway, so that was great. So it went on for 4 months. I'm going to do a part 2 next Friday and talk about more of what happened, because after that some more stuff happened. But it was actually a great experience. Like the director, like she bought me Culver's. It was just like, I was like, wow, I finally have a boss I can, like, it's not that I didn't respect the bosses back when it was the previous company. I just didn't know who they were. They never came in. They never introduced themselves to us. I don't know what they look like, what their names were or anything. Like the directors and the people that were running the hospital, the previous corporation, none of us we did not have any idea as to who these people were. So, but then they finally, about a month and a half, they finally did open up the court order downstairs. So basically we're just walking around basically just doing patrols around an abandoned area, and we would be using the security van and things like that. And we ended up getting, you know, the hands-on CPI training. And even the guy they brought in from California was a security officer just like me, which is weird because every time I got trained on CPI, Moab, Safe Clinch, SAMA, it was always a tech that trained me, like the lead, like what would be like the chief tech, and like the team of like HR. Because even when I worked at the children's hospital, it was like the tech's director is the one that trained me how to go hands-on. I mean, like I fucking needed it. But anyways, it was a security officer that trained us, and he was like a really cool, like nice guy. The guy who was a supervisor at the 4 hospitals in California, like great guy to work with. And I was like, dude, like I'm surprised this is going so well. So, but looks like you're gonna have to tune in next week to find out what happened. So, yeah. But it's just like what I said before. If God didn't tell me to come move here to New Mexico, I would have never left. I would have made that job seriously. I would have been at that job for the next 30 years. That's how much I loved it. So, anyways, this is SO Chris 199. I'm giving it to you raw, unfiltered, uncut, on anything else. So yeah, it's been a great experience, and yeah, so you're gonna have to tune in next week to find out what happens.